Okay, in this video, I'm going to show you an easy way to make a trick-or-treat bag. So for this particular tutorial, you'll need felt, and I purchased felt rectangles. The black I have here, I've already used a little piece of it for some project. But the felt comes, you can purchase it in 9 by 12 inch rectangle pieces. And each piece is roughly 25 cents. Some places, I think at Walmart, it's a little bit less. And so you'll need, for the bags we're going to do today, you need a piece of black, you need yellow, orange, and a piece of white felt. So purchase, make sure you have your felt rectangles here. You need some type of ribbon or trim or something. You need a ribbon, something that you're going to use for the handle of the bag. You're going to need some scissors because you have to cut stuff out. I have some chalk so that I can write on the black piece here. And then I just have a marker. This isn't a fabric marker. Sometimes the fabric markers are harder to show up on the felt. This is just a regular marker, and it's okay because I'm going to end up cutting it away anyway and you won't see it. So for the black, we're going to draw out a mouth, a nose, and 2 eyes for the pumpkin. And I'm doing this freehand because that's what you should do. Just, you know, whatever you want. So I'll say if my pumpkin's mouth is like this, and the eye. Okay, and for the eyes, I would just cut myself out some, you know, loose triangles. You can also use sort of the same shape for the nose. I'd probably make it a little bit smaller. So say my nose is going to be down here. And I'll make my nose a little smaller. So I'll cut this piece out. This will be the nose of the pumpkin. Okay, and it doesn't need to be perfect. Okay, so I'll say this shape is my nose. And see how I still have a little piece of chalk here? You can wipe it off, or I'm just going to turn it over. Use that. Cut out the mouth. And it should just be a loose, more organic shape. It should not look perfect. Okay. Just cut around the mouth here. Cut that shape out. Okay. And then for my eye here, I'm just going to fold it in half and cut them together so that I already have my 2. So I folded my felt in half here. And I'll cut this. Then that way I'm cutting 2 pieces at once. Okay. So when you're done, you should have something that looks like this. This would be his mouth, his, her. I don't know why I made him a boy. Those are the eyes. And then the nose, we would do something like that. Okay? So that is one of the bags that we will make. For your candy corn, you would just lay out your pieces of felt. I have my white, my orange, and my yellow. Try to get it a little straighter. Okay. And then you just basically you're going to draw a triangle, which is your candy corn. It's just sort of an elongated triangle, and it's, you know, curved at the top. And there is no right or wrong way to do this because, as you can see, I am not an artist and I am just doing this freehand. So it looks about like this. Okay, and then you would cut out these 3 pieces for your candy corn. My white, the line ended here, but I'm going to cut it a little higher so that I can lap the orange over it. So just go up past the line that you drew, about, you know, ½ an inch or so. Okay, with my orange, same thing. I'm going to cut this out a little longer, extending past my lines that I drew, so that I can lap the yellow over that one. Okay, that's my orange piece. And then here's my yellow. Okay, so I have my white piece, I have my orange piece here, and then I have my yellow piece that's gonna go over that. And then don't worry if you have a little extra here, like if it's not completely even, Once you finish sewing, you can come back and even these edges up and make sure everything is nice and even. And this would be your candy corn. Let this aside for a second so we can cut out our bag. So for the first one, maybe with the pumpkin, we will make this bag, and I'm just estimating. You make whatever size bag you want. So I have a piece of felt here, because felt, you can also purchase it by the yard. So I tend to do both. I purchase felt squares and I also purchase it by the yard. So this is just a piece of felt that I had left over from another project that I'm going to use for this bag. And so this felt, it's 14 inches high, so that would be a good size bag for me. So then I'm going to cut it so that it's 16 inches wide. So our bag will be 16 inches wide and it will be 14 inches high in this one. So I'm just going to cut this off so that it's 16 inches. In here where my 16 inches is, and I'll just cut straight up. Okay, so I have two pieces of felt now that are 14 inches by 16 inches, and that will be my bag. So before you start sewing, you want to lay out your design. So on this one, we'll put the pumpkin, the jack-o'-lantern. So we'll say his mouth, and it's wherever you want to put it. So say if it looks like that, you have a little nose here. So if you're doing this with a kid, they just lay it out the way they want it. And then you come back and you want to sew this on or glue it on. So the green one, because we'll be sewing the green, the polka dot with the right sides together, we're losing some of the width and some of the length because we have to allow for seam allowances. So the green bag, when we make it, will just be a bit smaller than the orange bag. That's okay. If you want it to be the same size, rather than cutting out this green piece 14 by 16, just give yourself an extra inch. So maybe you would cut it out, 16 by 18. Give yourself an extra couple inches. Okay, so to sew your candy corn, we already have it pinned. So where the pins are, I'm just going to sew along there so that I'm sewing all of my pieces together. Do a back stitch. And cut it. So the white on. Do my back stitch. Okay. So this would be our candy corn. In the edges here, I'm just going to trim it so that it's all even. Just cut here. Even it up on the sides and on this side. Okay, and now that we have all three pieces of our candy corn sewn together, you just sew that onto your bag. So just place it however you want it. Put yourself a couple pins in here to hold it in place. Okay, here. So I'll start up here, and you just stitch around the edges of the candy corn. Stop your presser foot so you can turn. Get back to my original stitching, do a back stitch, and that's done. Okay. Now what we're going to do is lay this out and sew both sides of our bag together. So match it up with right sides together. You smooth it out, put yourself a couple pins here, and you're just going to sew along the sides, the bottom, and back up the side. Okay, put your pins in place, smooth it out. You're going to sew along the side seam Sew along the side, across the bottom, and back up the other side. Make sure you leave the top part open. Okay, so you'll sew along the sides. I'm gonna start, do a back tack. Grab my pin. Stop about there so you can lift your presser foot and turn. And I am sewing with roughly a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. That's about the standard, that's the standard seam allowance. But what you can do is find yourself a guideline on your sewing machine and keep your fabric on the edge of that line. Give yourself a back stitch. And that's it. Now what I'm going to do for the top part, the top part needs to be folded down, say maybe about an inch, so that you do not see the raw edges on the right side. So what I'm going to do is just eyeball it as I do most things. I'm going to open up my seam allowance here, turn it down that's about 1/2 of an inch. And you can put yourself a couple pins in there. If you need to, just go measure it, no big deal. And it doesn't have to be an inch, 2 inches, it's whatever works for you. I'm just going to make this about, like I said, this is probably roughly 1.5 inches that I'm turning under. And you could go to the ironing board and press this down to keep it in place for you, but I'm not doing that. I'm just going to hold it in place, press it down with my hands, and I'll hold it in place with a few pins. So the way you want to sew it so that you don't have these extra raw edges here is turn it under about 1/4 of an inch and then put that back down, and you're going to sew on this folded edge here. So let's do that. I already have it pinned down, so I'm just going to turn it under a little bit as I sew. So I drop my presser foot. So as I'm sewing, I'm going to be turning under these raw edges. Grab my pin. Okay, that's it. Take that out and cut it. And let me get all the pins out. And that's it. Okay, for the candy corn, that one's done. Just gonna smooth it out, turn it to the right side, smooth it out. So here would be your candy corn bag. So from here, you just decide how you want your straps. Do you want 2 straps that would look, you know, something like this? You can put a strap here, like that, and then one on the other side, or if you want 1 long strap. So for this one, say you're gonna put 2 straps here. So let me get a piece of ribbon and show you that. So say if you wanted 2 straps here. So just cut yourself 2 pieces that are 18 inches. And for the sake of this, I'm just gonna estimate. So if you have a piece here, then cut that. So for this one, if you're gonna do 2 straps on it, I'm just gonna come in roughly, say 3 inches from the edges and put my strap and pin it. And make sure you have your strap the right way so you know it's not twisted. So just kind of look at it as you're laying it out. And then my other one would come here. And I put a pin. Okay, then I'm gonna turn it over and do the other strap the same way. So this would go here. Put a pin. Then the other one goes here. Okay. So it would end up looking like this once you sew it. And you would just come and sew like a square here. Okay, your next strap. Okay, and one more. Straps are on, you're done. Stop, turn the corner. Back tag. Okay, so for that one. So that's the mouth. Then we have to do the eyes and the nose. Okay, and now the eyes. One more eye. So we have everything sewn on the front of our pumpkin. So now we'll lay it out so that we can sew along the sides. Okay, so with our pumpkin, we're going to sew this on the right side. So you just lay it out. That's the back of it. This will be the front. So just match up your edges as best as you can, because once you're done, you can come back and trim it to even it out. This is the top, so make sure you leave that open. Okay, so we'll sew along the side, across the bottom, and then up the other side. Okay, so for this, rather than sewing it on the wrong sides and turning it, we're just going to sew it on the right side. So it'll be pretty much a top stitch. You'll see the stitching. This we're just going to sew on the right side and you'll see the stitching. Stop. You want to make sure you're not too close to the edge so that you don't end up with possibly a hole there. For that one, And then I'll just even up my edges. Wherever it's uneven, I'm just gonna make it even. Turn it over. You see how that's uneven? No big deal, just even it out. Okay, and for the strap on this one will do with one strap. That's about 36 inches. I'll cut this. Okay, so for this one, I'm gonna place my strap inside my bag here. You wanna go down, say give yourself a good, maybe 1.5 inches or so. And for this, I'll open up my seam allowance. You could fold it and sew it if you wanted to. I'll put myself a couple pins here, and that is where I'll sew. Okay, go to your other side, making sure your strap is not twisted. Okay, then you're just gonna come sew a rectangle here and on the other side to secure your straps. Drop your presser foot and then take your pin out. Just gonna stitch across, and I'll do a back stitch. Okay, stop, make sure you're still on the strap and turn. Turn, making sure you're still on the strap. I'll do a back stitch here. Just want to make sure my strap is nice and secure to hold all of that candy. Turn. Then just go back up here. Okay, that's one. Back stitch, and that is it.